Zach Polanski has proved himself an expert at garnering media attention and winning messaging cut through. But his party lacks significant government experience. That means their latest acquisition is a timely one. Jamie Driscoll served for 4 years as the Labour Metro Mayor for North of Tyne. He left the party after being blocked in 2023. From standing again, more recently, he had been involved in the founding process for your party. Didn't go too well, or at least his involvement. I caught up with him earlier today to find out why he's now switched to the Greens.
Well, politics is a mess. I think every Novara viewer will be aware of the crisis in the NHS, rampant wealth extraction, the fact that young people can't afford a home, the fact that we live in a country where people are literally being charged with terrorism for silently holding signs opposing war crimes. So something needs to be done. The only way you can do it is through collective action. The Greens have convinced me they're serious. They've been trying very hard to get me to join as well. And it seems to be that's a way through. You know what? We've got a lot of local elections coming up in May next year. We have to be ready for them. Who knows where we're going to be by 2029. But, if I can be useful, then that's what I want to do.
And this will be your third party in maybe as many years. So you left the Labour Party because very legitimately, you left the Labour Party, let's say, because they blocked you from standing as the North East Mayor, even though you were a mayor which covered, in an area which covered lots of that region. You then were involved in the founding of your party, although that all ended somewhat acrimoniously. I mean, how much do you want to say about, what happened in your party? I suppose just to be clear to our audience, you were kind of involved in organising it, and then you were sort of controlled one of the companies which ended up being sort of in dispute between the Zara Sultana and Jeremy Corbyn factions. Were you just burned by the experience, really?
There are some good people in your party, there really are, who are trying to do the best thing. And politically, I'm not sure how much difference there is between Labour Party, when I was in it, when I was elected, had a programme of nationalising the utilities, of a 4-day week, of all the things that, whether you're radical social democrats or whether you are democratic socialists who recognising that, you can only move so fast. Everything was compatible. I think your party, at least a lot of the people in your party want that. A lot of people in the Green Party want that. So politically, I don't think there's actually that much difference. Really what it is, how quickly are you going to get stuff done? And it's fair to say that, even the people in your party are thinking, it's going to be some while before we can convince the British public to vote for us.
Are you planning to stand for elected office? Presumably you've got a fair amount of name recognition in parts of the North East.
Yeah, well, in the mayoral campaign in Newcastle, I got 25,000 votes, Labour got 26,000 votes, and that was before the general election. So my old council seat of Monument Ward in Newcastle in the city centre, I'll be submitting myself to, there's a democratic process, of course, but to be selected to run there. And then after that, well, we'll see what happens. I do think politics is incredibly febrile. If you and I had a conversation 5th of July last year when Keir Starmer was saying, we've got a 174-seat majority. And I'd said, or you'd said to me, Reform are going to be 15 points clear and the Greens will be overtaking the Labour Party in some of the polls. No one would have believed it. So, and that was only, less than 18 months ago. Where we're going to be by 29, I don't know. So I do think the Greens are starting to realise what's happening there. Most of the people in the Green Party have only been there a few months. And the idea that getting 4 MPs was a great success, I think, is now in the rearview mirror. And they're thinking, we should be thinking about 80, 100 MPs. And, imagine in a hung parliament in 2029, then doing anything in government or in politics requires you getting your head around things incredibly quickly. And if you're new to it, you can be disorientated. So I think the more people of experience who've done something that we can get in, the better.
You sort of said there's a lot of uncertainty in politics at the moment. That's an understatement. And I suppose especially, to the left side of politics, it's really, really unclear what's going to be going on come 2029. So it could be the case that sort of Starmer is still leader and that we're basically in a similar situation to that which we are now, where there's an insurgent Green Party, a very stale Labour Party, and as you say, even people within your party don't really seem like they think they're going to be fighting fit for a general election in the near future. But if it was the case that Starmer is toppled, someone like Andy Burnham or Angela Rayner takes the reins, and Labour sort of has a shift in a different direction, potentially becomes much less authoritarian when it comes to selecting candidates. If it's the case that, let's imagine, the Greens don't look particularly competitive in the North East at the next general election, and you've got a leader who is more open to your kind of politics, I mean, might there be another change coming up for you? Do you feel committed to the Greens now, or are you sort of in the Greens because they, at the moment, seem like the most plausible alternative to a very sterile Labour Party?
Well, there's a lot to unpick there. I don't see the change of leader actually would change the Labour Party that much. I mean, first of all, they'll do everything they can to stop Andy Burnham getting there. I know Andy well. We worked together a lot as mayors, went out for a beer a few times. He changed from, obviously he was a Blairite minister, to becoming a solid social democrat. What could a solid social democrat leader of the Labour Party actually do when it's a party that's committed to wealth extraction? Is it really going to turn around and start bringing water and energy into public ownership? And would its donors allow that? Is there anybody left there? It's a toxic nest of vipers. Not only did they block me, in the North East, they removed Graham Miller, the leader of Sunderland City Council, who was elected by the people, because during my time in the Labour Party, he'd supported me. They got rid of Nick Kemp, leader of Newcastle City Council. So it runs much, much deeper than Keir Starmer. And as many have said, Keir Starmer, in fact, his own advisor says, he thinks he's driving the train, but it's a driverless train. So it's not just about Keir Starmer. In terms of my politics, the manifesto I was elected on in 2019 and delivered substantially almost all of it, despite COVID, was compatible with Green policies then. The election manifesto I had in 24 was about publicly owned integrated transport. It was about a Green New Deal. It was about full employment on proper working conditions and pay. And all of that is compatible with Green policy. So actually, I don't think I've changed. I think the world keeps changing around me.
Zach Polanski in ways is quite green in a different way, in that he's sort of a new leader of a party. He's clearly working out his own ideas on certain things at the moment. Lots and lots is up in the air. Obviously, there's going to be, there has been loads more new people join the Greens. Lots of the people standing for election at the next election or in locals are presumably going to be, relatively new candidates and people potentially new to politics. That means there's a lot to play for. Are there any sort of strong beliefs that you have in terms of what the Green Party should do and shouldn't do between now and 2029, if what it wants to do is put Britain on a better path and not hand the keys to Downing Street to Nigel Farage?
Yeah, and that's the objective, isn't it? You're right, absolutely right. It's got to be about stopping Britain becoming a fascist country. I mean, if we look at what's happening in the States, where you've got law enforcement agents kicking down people's doors or kidnapping them, essentially. That's horrific, and that could happen here. We mustn't think it couldn't. So the possibilities for victory are only possibilities unless you get organised, unless you come up with a way of explaining it to people that gets them over. Now, the advantage we do have is when you look at progressive politics, over 80% of the public think water should be in public ownership. About 72%, it varies poll to poll, but it's always of that order of magnitude, think we should have a wealth tax. And so on across pretty much everything the left would want. And the question is, why then does no one ever seem to get elected to deliver it? And a lot of it is because people agree with our politics, and almost all Novara viewers will agree with it as well. But when they look at you, they also have to think these people could run the country. So that when they're there in the voting booth and they're thinking, yeah, but will my pension be safe? But will these people spend my tax money wisely? That's where the Green Party need to push on. That's where they need people who can say, actually, I've ran the public finances and it all added up and did a good job with it. So economic credibility is what wins elections. And actually, the reason when I talk to reform voters or potential reform voters when I'm out campaigning, they don't say, actually, I quite like the policies of the Reform Party. I've had a look at them and they make sense. What a lot of them say is, look, it's all a mess and I'm pressing the reset button. I just want someone else to have a go. So let's capture those people. And I think Zach's playing a blinder. One of the things he's doing really well is he's standing up to the questioning. Far too many politicians who have come from the left or claim to be of the left, when someone has a go at them, they say, oh, well, yes, I know, and they start to retreat. And he says, no, the emperor does have no clothes. We can have a wealth tax. You know, poverty is a political choice and we could choose to end it, and it is up to us. And I think people admire the bravery that brings.